The views and opinions expressed on Unlock Your Wealth Radio are those of the host, guests, and callers only and are not necessarily the views of Unlock Your Wealth Radio, Heather Wagenhalls, or Success Publishing International.
More willpower than a barefoot woman at a shoe sale, able to stretch a single paycheck for an entire month. Makes money concepts easier than third-grade math. Introducing your purveyor of prosperity, Heather Wagenhall.
Work all day, stress all night. Take your mind off your money and focus on your life. Money don't matter or the stuff it bought. It's the way you think, not what you've got, yeah.
Unlock Your Wealth Radio starts now. Get your money mind right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unlock Your Wealth Radio is sponsored in part by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download at heathersfreeaudiobook.com why do I always do that? I'm used to...
You got one of those Arizona accents.
Do I? Yeah, I know. Isn't that funny? Somebody told me, I'm like, what is an Arizona accent? We totally don't have accents. We're like so not Arizona, more Valley Girl like.
Yeah.
Like this is the Valley of the Sun. I'm a Valley of the Sun girl, not like LA Valley Girl.
Yeah.
Remember? She's a Valley girl.
Connecticut doesn't have accents either. I don't.
What do you mean? You guys totally have accents.
Oh, we do?
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yes. It's not as bad as like the Ohio wash the laundry,
Well, that's Philadelphia.
change the tire, or you know, what kind of car do you have? A Toyota. I'm like, where is that a neck Toyota? Or what kind of Toyota is that when it's Toyota?
Toyota, yeah.
I drive a Toyota. My mother used to say radiator. I'm like, where are you from?
And what is that? Is that Radiator was Queens and Brooklyn, I think, and Turlet?
Yeah, she was
Where's your mother from?
Michigan.
Michigan.
But she would always try to say she had a Texas accent too, and I never understood that. I'm like, because I don't know anybody in Texas with radiators, but
Texas is a southern accent.
yeah, but it's got like a diphthong or something else or something like that. I don't know. I would love to, you know, just be one of those linguistic elocution kind of people.
My favorite is Philadelphia and Delaware. You know, water.
You know, I always like the word differences. You know, my next door neighbors were from Wisconsin, and so they would grab me a rag out of the bag. You know, big, or like you know, it just had that funny thing. And then instead of a drinking fountain, they called it a bubbler.
Do you ever see Fargo?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, is that why? Because it's got
Minnesota.
Yeah.
It's from Minnesota and Wisconsin. It's because you got all the Swedes and the Norwegians up there.
There you go. That must be it. Would you guys like to be welcome to our show? I'm Heather Wagenhalls, by the way, and I've been chattering away with our maestro of moolah and
Swedish
producer.
chef over here.
Yeah, the Swedish chef for the Muppets, also known as Michael Thierry. And we're going to help you get your money mind right on today's show. This isn't a linguistics show. This is a personal finance, brain-based financial literacy show. So the Keys to Riches is now its own show. If you haven't joined us in a while, join the Keys to Riches show powered by Unlock Your Wealth Radio on iTunes or on its own website at keystoriches.com for this week's key, which is...
Hope for the best, plan for the worst.
Okay, we almost had a momentary deer in the headlights, like, oh my gosh, what show is this? But you survived, yes. Hope for the best, plan for the worst. This is about our financial fire escape plan.
Yeah.
And why we need one, because so many of us make mistakes. Also got a moolah word of the day about our globalization. And we've got a great guest on today's show that's going to help you make some money this year. Then that would be Naresh Vissa. And he will be joining us momentarily. But moolah word of the day, let's get that out of the way first. Our moolah word of the day is globalization, and the name for the process of increasing the connectivity and interdependence. I'm having trouble today.
Yeah.
It's those Dove chocolates you set out. That's not good for a diabetic, let me just tell you. So let's start again, shall we? Globalization is the name for the process of increasing the connectivity and interdependence of the world's markets and businesses. This process has speeded up dramatically in the last few decades as technological advances make it easier for people to travel, communicate, and do business internationally. And two major recent driving forces are advancements in telecommunications infrastructure and the growth of the internet. Isn't that fabulous?
Yeah.
But more importantly, I'd like to talk about this week's guest because we have a pretty spectacular guest in Naresh. Naresh is founder and CEO of Krish Media and Marketing, a full-service online and digital media and marketing consultancy and agency. He has worked with leading publishers, media firms, and institutions such as CNN Radio, JP Morgan Chase, Everbank, the Institute for Energy Research, Houston Rockets, Astros, the American Junior Golf Association, Agora Publishing, and Stansberry Research. I actually get their little publication at Stansberry. Is kind of interesting. Naresh helped launch an online radio network generating 6 figures in monthly income. Woo! Wow. That's a good little revenue chunk. He has managed the production and marketing for the first online retail physical precious metals trading platform. And he is the best-selling author of Podcastnomics, the book of podcasting to make you millions. He's been featured everywhere, USA Today, Yahoo, Bloomberg, and he now joins us at Unlock Your Wealth Radio. Naresh, welcome to Unlock Your Wealth Radio. We are thrilled to have you a part of our show.
Thanks so much, Heather. It's a pleasure to be on. I've been listening to you for years.
Yeah, that's so exciting. How great. You were a fan and now you're a guest. That's really exciting for me. And what I think is going to be really exciting for our listeners to have you on is that you're going to help them make more money this year.
Yes, I will. I can help them make more money. But even more important than money is help them achieve freedom and independence. I think that at the end of the day is more important than anything else you can have in your life.
Well, yeah, because, it's when you're not thinking about your finances or how you're going to make ends meet or did I make enough this month? And I can't even, have enough checks left at the end of the money in my checkbook. and I can't even begin to think about retirement planning. How am I going to be able to get value and enjoy my life just to live it if I'm so stressed out about money? So while money isn't the end goal, it's a tool to creating the life that we desire.
Yes, absolutely. And to give you or your listeners some context into how I wanted to take control of my life and have more freedom, I left the corporate world 3 years ago. So my background initially started out in media and media, really just media as a reporter. And then I went to business school, was a financial analyst, worked on Wall Street for a short while, was a value analyst at a hedge fund, and then kind of merged the media and finance side to get into financial publishing. Long story short, I learned a lot about this new digital economy, and my previous experiences helped me gain the trust in myself to go out on my own and to live a life of freedom and of independence. So for 3 years, I've been completely on my own, virtual. I've lived in different cities. I've traveled a lot, but I've run multiple businesses in the financial and publishing spaces.
And you are a best-selling author on top of all of that. You've got a couple of bestsellers out there, 50 Shades of Marketing, Whip into Shape and Dominate Your Competition. I like the way that sounds. And then Podcastnomics, it's a podcasting book. So I think that that's really great. So what do we need to know about this digital economy? We hear about it. We're on the internet. We Facebook all the time. But where does the economy part of being digital come in?
Well, the digital economy is still growing. There are still some industries that have not adapted to the digital marketplace. Really, the benefits of going digital, and I believe that in 15 to 20 years, every business, every industry is going to be digital. But really, the benefit is the cost of doing business has plummeted. So it cuts your costs, and more importantly, the cost to start a business has also plummeted. So back in the 80s and the 90s, Heather, I know you're an entrepreneur. You can probably explain more about how expensive, how difficult it was to get a business up and running, whether it was brick and mortar or a service-based business. You had to do all sorts of things.
Yeah, I mean, whether or not you manufacture yourself, you've got outsourcing costs. You want to make something. I mean, just look at Shark Tank and all of these investor shows. They're not borrowing, $10,000, $20,000. They're borrowing $500,000, $1 million to start a product or service business.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And because of the digitization of commerce, the cost has gone down drastically. And now anybody can start a business from their home, from their house, their bedroom, from their living room, whatever you want to call it. You can do that with the digital world and the digital environment. And your podcast, for example, that's a perfect example of a product that you've built from scratch, which I have no idea if you started it from home or where you started it, but you could have easily started your podcast from home on your computer.
I was actually on terrestrial radio, and then I went to the digital platform, and now I've been picked up into syndication around America. So I'm on both. Oh, great. But, I looked at the numbers from being in terrestrial radio, and it started because my brother was deployed overseas, and he would listen to my radio show via the internet. And so I started exploring that, and I thought, okay, when I get 1% of the listing audience buying stuff in Phoenix, Arizona, where I was broadcasting from initially, that, I would have, maybe, 60,000 people listening at any one given time. But with the internet, you just add another 0 or 2 onto that, because now you're worldwide. You're not limited to a particular geographic location with digital radio as you are with terrestrial radio.
That's a perfect example. You just gave a case study of how the digital marketplace has affected your terrestrial radio show. And you're absolutely correct in that there are now platforms available such as iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher. If you have a book, you have Amazon, Audible, iTunes, if it's an audiobook. You have these platforms that reach pretty much almost every country in the world. And the people in these countries use these large platforms. And so you are exposing yourself, not just in your case to your local market, but you're now exposing yourself to the world. So we can apply that principle to business, to any business, really, whether it's a legal business, an accounting business, a publishing business. We can apply it to anything.
Yeah, and I think that was what, was really exciting to me, because a lot of people don't necessarily understand how radio works, like terrestrial radio, and how the shows get put together. And for me, when I was looking at the growth of listener size, another comparison I was also noting that was significant was like what you said, that the cost of doing internet radio was 1/10 of what it was to be on regular radio. So, people don't realize you buy your time slot and then you sell your own commercials and endorsements and sponsors. And so if I'm doing all of that work and having to split the money with them and pay for the time slot, I can, for 1/10 of the money, I got a premium broadcast platform on the internet, and I didn't have to share my sponsor money with anybody.
You're absolutely correct. You're correct. I'm an author myself and a podcaster, but I'm an author, and the beauty of these new self-publishing tools is you don't have to share the money that you earn with a publisher or a publicist or any of those people. You can do it yourself. You can take control of your professional life, of your personal life. You can take control and see the fruits of your labor. I know countless authors who go through publishers. They get tiny advances in the like low 4 figures. Some of them don't even get any advances.
If they even get them anymore.
Yeah, right. If they even get them anymore, they get either tiny advances or no advances. They publish with a publisher. They're ecstatic because they sold 1,000 copies of their book, but their royalty check at the end of it all is less than $100.
Yeah, the royalties are a fraction of what they would have had they self-published or found an independent publishing brand to be under. And at the end of the day, going with a big publishing house, you still have to do your own marketing. You have to set your own speaking tour. You have to do all of that stuff anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So those in 50 Shades of Marketing, my latest book, I talk about these, what I call 20th century industries. So the book publishing industry, for example, it's a 20th century industry, and there are many 20th century industries out there that have already gotten disrupted, and they're ripe for even more destruction. And we're going to see major transformations within these industries: the medical industry, the legal industry. You know how, Heather, I'm sure you've had lawyers in the past, I'm sure. And you know how inefficient the process can be, being on the clock and getting them to fill out a paper, getting them to sign a paper, and they're charging you all this money. These are all ripe for change because of the new digital economy, because of the innovation, because of the ease that someone can start a business and disrupt these kind of old school, outdated, antiquated industries and businesses.
So I have a trivia question for you since we're talking about publishing. Do you know what single invention totally revolutionized us as a society and a people that was able to spur on what we have today?
So there are two things. If you're talking about historically, my guess would be the printing press.
Yes.
Historically.
Good.
Okay.
Yay!
Well, what I was also going to say is, if you want to talk about modern day, the internet, and that includes mobile phones, that I think would be the next greatest invention.
Yeah, I mean, the printing press did so much for education and intellect. And what I find interesting is that, who would have seen this whole like Kindle ebook reader experience be able to take hold? Because I had one before the internet became even as big as it was. I was one of the first early adopters to that type of reading because I am a voracious reader. And I was blown away because I still like to read regular books. There's a certain feel of and the smell of the paper and all of that stuff that's very romantic about sitting and curling up with a good book. But it's unbelievable, the opportunities, not just for the people that are professional writers, but if you have something to say, you can assemble a team and get your information out to the masses now relatively simply. Wouldn't you agree?
I completely agree. Now, did you say that you were reading Kindles before what did you say you were reading before the internet was even invented?
Not before the internet was invented, but I had this type of, it was an HP, it was called an HP 95LS. It was like one of the first Palm computers. And
okay.
you could take manuscripts and put it on there. And so I always had a book with me to read. I always had something that I could read. Because of that. And I was a big fan of audiobooks. And when Audible came out, that was the greatest thing. And they're one of our sponsors, as a matter of fact.
Gotcha. Okay. Got it. Yeah. Well, that publishing industry has gotten severely impacted for the better. I think in general, the impact that industries face in the long run, it's always for the better. When you look at the transformation. So, all of this is good. It's going to create more jobs in the future, and it already has created a ton of opportunity for entrepreneurs, small business owners, and the like to become creative and do things that they want to do to get more freedom in their lives. Absolutely.
You are listening to the Unlock Your Wealth radio program. This segment of today's show is sponsored in part by KeepMyID.org, the only service that actually prevents identity theft. All others are just monitoring services. Put your credit on lockdown with their special offer for Unlock Your Wealth radio listeners. Just visit unlockyourwealthradio.com/keepmyid to enroll and protect your financial future now. Use promo code WAGS. So, with the advent of the digital economy, how can we leverage this to make ourselves better?
The first step in leveraging the digital economy, and it has actually nothing to do with even understanding the digital environment. Instead, it's building an expertise in a necessary niche. That's the most important thing. So whether your niche is real estate, or it can be some kind of academic area, it can be anthropology, you need to find an area that you specialize in. Once you can build yourself up, or not even build yourself up, but once you determine that you are an expert in a given field, then what you can do is use the digital tools available to you to start some kind of business. There are all sorts of businesses that can be started, but assuming that you understand your niche and your industry, you'll have to identify opportunities within that space. And so 50 Shades of Marketing, the book, it covers all the different resources that you can utilize in order to get your business up and running. And I'll share what I think are the most important fundamental resources and strategies that a business owner or a fledgling business owner should utilize. So the first thing, and you'll be surprised, Heather, you'll be surprised about this, especially if you look at the medical industry, the legal industry, the accounting space, having a simple website. There are so many professionals out there who have their practices, whether it be it medical or accounting or law, and they don't even have a website. You can't find them anywhere online. And so now that because of digitization, how are you going to expect people to find you? Are you just going to depend on old school referrals, which is the 20th century way of doing business? That's the very basic fundamental thing that you need to do if you go out on it. You need a simple website to take people to so that they can find out more about you, and then also so they can find you.
Yeah, I mean, who uses Yellow Pages anymore?
Yeah, well, here's the thing. There's online Yellow Pages, YP.com. So nobody does use that big Yellow Page book that used to be delivered to your place every year. But having a presence on YP.com, the online Yellow Pages, that's very beneficial, way more beneficial than being listed in the big book. I don't even think they deliver those anymore.
We still get like community versions of them here in Arizona.
Okay. Yeah.
We get a little thin community version. But, you know, I think about the point that you're making. You know, I've had a few guests, and they weren't necessarily older guests, but a few guests that did not have an internet presence. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's how people are accessing this show most often, or through iTunes or one of our various podcast providers. And so if they're on your show page and they want to know more about you, I need to have that link for them to click on, and they don't even have a web page. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah, and Heather, think about this. Think about the quality of the individuals who will find a business by using the internet. It's going to be a much greater quality than people who don't know how to use the internet and don't use any of these digital tools. Someone who probably uses the internet to listen to your show, for example, they're somewhat qualified. They're people who are interested in business and finance and real estate. They know how to use their smartphone, so they probably listen to you on iTunes. And so these are very qualified listeners, very qualified leads that build up value, really tangible, not even intangible, but tangible value in your asset, which is your podcast. So having that online presence, it also attracts quality leads, much more higher quality leads than if you were just going door to door or doing trade shows or something like that.
Yeah. So let's say, for example, I've only ever been an employee all my life. So how do I become a freelancer or an independent business person through the digital economy? Where do I start?
So if you've been, the first most important thing is you must become the expert in your field. And by expert, it's not just knowing the ins and outs of whatever your job specification is, but it's also knowing your industry. You have to be able to do both, because there are some people who work in the corporate world. They show up to their job, they work from 9 to 5, and then they go home. They have no idea who the big players are. They don't, network within the industry. They don't understand the activity that's happening within the industry. Those types of people, they can certainly go out on their own because they have a skill. But the hard part is building up their clientele or building up their partnerships, the business development side. That's going to be a major challenge. So whereas on the other side, there are many people who don't really have a skill. They're really good at meeting people, at sales and selling themselves, but they don't really have that set trade or that set craft that they're able to offer to potential clients or customers or investors or whoever it might be. And so as a result, these people, we've all run into them. They're people who talk a huge game. They talk, but they don't walk. They don't really offer anything of much value outside of giving a few good speeches or a few good conversations. So it's really important that you have both. So before going out on your own, if you are that employee sitting in the cubicle listening to this podcast right now, you need to have both of those things, the very strong skill set and the thorough understanding of the ins and outs of your industry. Once you have both, then you can create an informal business plan and start targeting, okay, here's my market, here are my potential clients. And you can even pick up the phone and start calling some people or emailing some people and bouncing ideas off them. And you can say, hey, I'm thinking about starting this on the side. That's another thing that I recommend. Always, if you have a full-time job, start your first business on the side. That way, that's how I got started, on the side when I was still in school, and then on the side again when I was working a full-time job. It's much safer. You know that you still have a steady income and paycheck coming every 2 weeks. And once your side hustle becomes big enough, then you can leave your full-time job and take over that business. There are countless successful businesses that have started as side jobs.
Well, that's great. You know, I've been a big proponent of the digital economy, and we have several things that we do, and internet marketing drives a lot of it now. And it's just, it's cheaper from a business perspective. You have better margins, and the internet's 24/7, so you can kind of pick and choose your work schedule, and you don't have to have like this big headquarters office. You know, I remember a few years back, I had to call in from China because I was traveling around China, and I had to call in to do my radio show from all over the world, and but nobody knew the difference. Well, except that I told them where I was, but had I not disclosed that, nobody would have known that I was busy traveling. They still thought I was sitting here working hard in some, brick and mortar office. So that's the one great thing about it. You've shared some really interesting pieces of information. If folks want to get your books and drill down into this and learn more about you, where can folks find you?
They can visit my website, nareshvissa.com, which has more information about me. You can contact me through there. My books are available there too. 50 Shades of Marketing, Whip Your Business into Shape and Dominate Your Competition. That's a #1 best-selling book, still on the bestseller list on various categories. Audiobook, paperback, and Kindle versions are available. And you can also check out krishmediamarketing.com, Krish, mediamarketing.com, which is our marketing company. We offer a variety of digital consultancy and agency type of services for businesses.
Well, thank you so much for being a part of today's show. And for those of you who are driving around without a pencil, never fear. UnlockYourWealthRadio.com is here where you can visit Naresh's show page and get his links to his books and his website and so much more. And for more in-depth interviews with money experts, strategies, and members-only tools to fix your credit, get out of debt, and have more money and happiness, do what other savvy listeners have and visit UnlockYourWealthRadio.com where you go to get your money mind right so your wealth and happiness will follow. Become an Insiders Club member today and start receiving the benefits of millionaire wisdom right now. For Unlock Your Wealth Radio and the maestro of Moolah, Michael Terry, I'm Heather Wagenhals. Now go out and unlock your wealth today.
UnlockYourWealthRadio.com is produced by Heather Wagenhals and the Unlock Your Wealth Foundation. UnlockYourWealthRadio.com and its affiliates are copyrighted 2016 with all rights reserved. For more information on the Keys to Riches Financial Wellness series, please visit our website at www.unlockyourwealth.com.